And we are back for the second video of the day. It is time for our fantasy football video, which we can do since despite Manchester United playing tonight, they are not in the upcoming game week, meaning that we can do our fantasy football video for this week nice and early. And a reminder to all of you that the fantasy football will cut off tomorrow evening because it is Premier League action on Friday night for the first time in a very long while. So make sure you are getting your teams done nice and early to not miss that early Friday cut-off point. And it is a very bizarre game week. For the first time I can remember, we have teams not playing while there are other teams playing twice. So it is a very unique game week this week for Game Week 25. I know that there are a lot of you out there contemplating using your free hits this week, but I would strongly advise against doing that. The reason for that being is that on Game Week 28, so just 3 game weeks time, we have got the FA Cup quarter-finals, and in the worst case scenario, there is a situation where 6 Premier League games could be postponed because of the FA Cup quarter-finals. So do save your free hits if you've still got them left over. Do not use them on this game week unless there's like an absolute desperation. I'm actually going to use my free hit on my team this week because I have as many as 9 players missing from the upcoming game week just because I have so many Man United, Brighton and Brentford and Newcastle players. It's just the way that it's come out that I'm having to use my free hit this week. However, you guys should definitely be saving yours for Game Week 28, where, like I say, there could be as few as 4 fixtures in the Premier League that weekend, and that is desperately when you're going to need that free hit. Now, for the rest of the usual video, as always, if you want to see my team for this week, feel free to jump ahead to the latter part in the video, because what we're going to do now is we're going to do a quick review of the Game Week 24 team, see how we got on, and shout out any of you who beat me in last week's challenge. Drop a like on this video if you are enjoying the series, and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Let's see that Game Week 24 team. Sadly, it was only 59 points for the best of team last week. Rashford hitting 15 being our only real big name to do any serious damage. Saka obviously got 6, but that's not the best scores. But a lot of our gambles did not pay off last week. João Felix only getting 2. Tony, who was supposed to be a big hitter, only getting 2 as captain. Dawson not doing anything. Ben Mee not doing anything. Pedro Porro on the bench because he didn't even play. And then Emerson Royale absolutely smashed it. Kepa only getting 2 against Southampton at home. There was thankfully one big risk that ended up more than paying off, which was of course Seamus Coleman, who not only got the clean sheet but managed to get himself a goal as well. So 15 points for him, 15 points for Rashford, pretty much carrying the entire team on their respective backs. And of course Ollie Watkins with a nice little 8 as well. But sadly that means that we were only good enough to get a game week rank of 1,367,000. So an absolute shocker for the best of team this week, which means there were plenty of winners to the game week challenge this week. And let's shout them out right now, because top of the list is me. My actual team managed to get 84 this week. I captained Rashford, where an awful lot of people captained Haaland. So obviously he scored 30 on his own. And then I also had Ollie Watkins and Seamus Coleman and a couple of other players that I had been suggesting to you guys as well, which all in all ended up in a game week score of 84, which I'm more than happy with because it was 11 points more than the second best score in the league last week. But I have to mention that as well because second place went to one of my best mates, Dan Goodwin, who hasn't played fantasy football for about 4 months. So his team is 4 months out of date, and it got 73 because he had Trent as his captain, which is just absolutely bizarre. Obviously, he's not played it for so long, so he's got a team that's completely mismatched to all teams' current form, but all the informed teams other than Manchester United had bad weeks last week. So he managed to pick up 73, which was enough for second place overall. And as you can see, there were a fair few winners as well, as you'd expect when the best of team scores 59 points only. So congratulations to any of you that managed to make it onto the winners' circle this week. Let's see what those scores have done to the league table, where you'll see that once again, James Morris has extended his lead by a smidge, just 2 points on Ben this time around. But we don't care about the top of the league. We care about right down here, 18th place. We're finally on the board. That 84 points, enough to get me into the top 20. And look, I'm coming after every single person above me, best be assured. Going into the World Cup or coming out of the World Cup, I was in 30th place and I was 300 points behind top spot. As it stands right now, I am up to 18th and I am within 200 points off top spot. So with 13 game weeks to go, I am fighting for my life. I'm going to go as far up this table as I possibly can. And like I say, every single person has a target on their back because my team is flying right now. And as I said, I am going to be free hitting this week as well. So hopefully we can get ourselves up a few more places this week. It's all going to inevitably come crashing down at the end of it. But right now, my team is on fire and I am hunting down every single person above me. And if I can actually manage to claw my way all the way back to the top, then it'll probably be the greatest comeback story in fantasy football history. But that's the league as it stands right now. Obviously, if you're in the top 20, congratulations to you. And obviously, well done for however you got on last week. As I just said again, I am obviously free hitting this week. And I will reiterate to you guys that I would strongly advise against free hitting this week. But if, like me, you are going to be free hitting, this is the sort of team that I would expect you to be building, as it is also going to be my best of team for this week. So, we'll start with the players that are playing twice, which of course come from Liverpool, Arsenal, Everton and Wolves. Now, you'll notice that I've only got one Everton player and I haven't picked a single Wolves player. That is because I don't really fancy either of them in both games. Like, I've gone for Seamus Coleman because I think Everton have half a chance of getting a clean sheet against Aston Villa. I don't see them getting a clean sheet against Arsenal. And as with last week, Seamus Coleman is always good for going the other way. Apart from that, I don't really see any Everton players doing anything of real significance. You're looking at the likes of Iwobi, Dwight McNeil, Neil Mopai, not really players that you'd particularly want to put, even though it's a double game week. And as for Wolves, their team is changing so much at the moment, it's hard to say for certain that any one player is going to play both games, with the possible exception of Max Kilman and Michael Dawson. But Craig Dawson, sorry, not Michael Dawson. Yeah, it's really tough to pick a Wolves player. It's really tough to pick an Everton player. I've just gone for Seamus Coleman, like I said, because I think they've got half a chance of getting a clean sheet against Aston Villa. So that is why we have gone for him. As for the other double game week players, you'll see we have gone for Ramsdale in goal to start things off. It was a real toss-up between him and Alisson. I think they'll both end up getting one clean sheet this week. I would expect Ramsdale to get the clean sheet against Everton. I would expect Alisson to get the clean sheet against Wolves. I've just gone for Ramsdale because he is the cheaper option and allows me to have a little bit more money to spend elsewhere in the rest of the team. Speaking of, that is why we have gone for Trent Alexander-Arnold. Even though they got a little bit ripped to shreds by Real Madrid and him particularly by Vinicius Jr., I still think Trent has recovered some of his form over the last few weeks. A game against Crystal Palace, a game against Wolves. Like I say, I would expect Liverpool to get the clean sheet against Wolves. And Trent is always good for something going the other way. And who knows? He's, like I said, he's been on form. He's got assists in his last two games. So hopefully he can do so again against Wolves and Crystal Palace and get some good points from defence from there. I'll round off the defence while I'm here and just go for Emerson. A slightly risky one. It's only 4 million. They're at home to Nottingham Forest, West Ham. Emerson has started the last 3 games. Cresswell is fit, but I think David Moyes is favouring Emerson right now, which is why I have gone for him. Into the midfield then, and this is where the majority of our double game week players are. The 2 from Liverpool I've gone for is Mohamed Salah and Cody Gakpo. Both have scored on their last games out. Both playing relatively well. I know Salah was kind of stopped by Nacho Fernandes in the second half of that game. But against Crystal Palace, against Wolves, you expect Salah to do something. I mean, it would surprise me if you've got Salah and you're not captaining him this week. The only possible reason you wouldn't is because you'd go for my captain, which is, of course, Bukayo Saka here. And like I say, Cody Gakpo's had a rough start to his life at Liverpool, but he's scored in his last few games. He looks a little bit sharper. The only risk is, of course, that Jota and Firmino are both back, but I would expect Gakpo to still start the form that he's in both games. And then, like we said, the 2 Arsenal players, I've gone for Bukayo Saka and Martinelli. I would go for Odegaard over Martinelli in this situation, but again, funds just didn't quite allow it. So maybe you could go for Robertson in defence and then Odegaard in midfield if you want to mix it up in terms of who to have in your team like that. And then I've gone for Bukayo Saka as the captain. Now, like I say, a lot of you are probably going to go for Mohamed Salah if you have him in your teams. But I just think the form that Saka's in right now, he is the one to go for. Leicester away, Everton at home. 2 games that Arsenal should be winning. And whenever Arsenal win, Bukayo Saka is inevitably going to be involved. And of course, he takes penalties as well, should it get to that situation. So for me, Bukayo Saka, I couldn't even say it right. Bukayo Saka is your go-to captain for this week over Mohamed Salah if you do have both. And rounding off the midfield, very much like with the defence, we've gone for a West Ham player in the resurgent form of Jarrod Bowen. Again, against Nottingham Forest, even with Keylor Navas in goal, bolstering Nottingham Forest defensively, I still think West Ham should be taking the win in this one, and Bowen will inevitably be involved if they do. On to the attack then, and I am going to stick with Erling Haaland. However, I'm going to make an incredibly bold statement here and say if Haaland doesn't do anything against Bournemouth, he's getting dropped. And then I mean that for my main team. If Haaland does nothing against Bournemouth, after the last couple of weeks that Manchester City have had, where they've really struggled to find him, and he's cut an incredibly frustrated figure the last 2 or 3 games that I've seen him, especially last night against RB Leipzig. If it doesn't happen for him against Bournemouth, Haaland is out of my team. And I know that is an incredibly bold statement, but against Bournemouth, who in my opinion are the worst team in the Premier League, with the greatest of respects to them, you'd surely think Haaland's going to bag himself a couple, if he even plays. Next to him, I've gone for Mitrovic. Slight injury worry. Obviously, he is amber on your screen right now, but I think he's going to play against Wolves, and if he does, he will surely be involved. Wolves have not been playing great the last couple of games. Like I said, hence why I've not included them, despite them having a double game week. I would think Mitrovic comes back in and scores against Wolves. But if he doesn't, we have sitting on the bench waiting Kelechi Iheanacho, who has been on a fantastic run of form for Leicester, reminiscent of his form at the back end of last season, where he started scoring every single week. He was unlucky not to grab a couple of goals against Manchester United if it wasn't for some brilliance from David De Gea and Victor Lindelof, respectively, on 2 separate chances. Like I say, I don't think Arsenal get the clean sheet against Leicester. I think they would against Everton. So I would back Iheanacho to get something done against Arsenal. I think he's playing very well at the moment. He's creating chances for himself. So at 6.1 million, and given the fixtures that Leicester have got coming up, even if it's not to put him in this week, I think Iheanacho is one to keep an eye on for the upcoming game weeks, hence why I'm including him now. And that is going to be it. That is my prediction, or say my prediction, that is my players you should be looking at for this upcoming double game week. I have, of course, made slight alterations with my main team. It'd be pretty stupid of me to just pick this exact team for my main team as well. So if you're looking for any other ideas, by all means, check out my main team as well. But that is going to be it for today's video. All that is left to say, like with every week, is that if you think that your team is capable of beating my best of Game Week 25 team, then feel free to join the SO99 League with the league code on screen. And if you are free hitting, then by all means, let's see if your team is capable of beating my free hit team. Thank you very much for watching, as always, and I'll be back tomorrow for the Premier League predictions. There are several videos going up on this channel over the next couple of days, and this is, of course, one of them. So thank you very much for watching, if you have been watching all of them, and subscribe if you are new around here, so you don't miss out on any of the future upcoming videos as well. Thank you very much for watching.